Bye week, lots of good work done on the road recruiting as well. Got some good work done there as well. And looking forward to getting our fans back in the stadium. They did such an awesome job last time we were there, providing a great atmosphere and giving us an advantage. Looking forward to seeing them again as we get to play our Friday night game on national TV against Cal. So open to questions.
All right, first question, James Crepia from the Oregonian.
Mario, kind of two-parter here, but how much does the offense change, if at all, without CJ? Given you guys were going to be looking for a little bit more vertical passing in the first place, but without him, how does that impact some things? And why are you guys confident that, and I'm not criticizing Travis, but you haven't had to ask him to be a 20-touch or 20-carry a game player before. And if he does that for you the next 8 weeks, it would shatter what he's done from production. Why are you confident he'll be able to do that for you the next 2 months?
The offense doesn't change. We'll play the backs. They'll handle the reps that they can handle. We've got good running backs. With the absence of CJ, the load will have to be picked up by another couple of guys. We typically play 2 heavy, and then a third back gets a couple of reps. It'll be somewhere divvied up between 3 guys. The actual percentage of carries will be determined by how each particular back can handle it, starting with Travis, which he's handled it really well. He's bigger, he's stronger, and he's done a great job for us. So we expect him to play excellent football.
Matt Preem, 24/7 Sports.
Yeah, Mario, there's a report that Joe Moorhead could be back this week. Is that accurate?
Well, he's trying to. I know he's healing up. He's certainly the first and foremost, we want to get healthy and to be well. And he's progressing. He's certainly involved with what we have planned, just like last week. If the game plan doesn't change, I mean, we have an offense. We're not going to scrap in the middle of the year. So, but he is healing up, day by day, and we'll see where we are midweek. But he's certainly involved in the game planning part of it, and we'll see where we are later in the week.
Jeff Ferrado, Cal Sports Report.
Coach, from your view, what are you seeing in Cal this year, and are you surprised they haven't been more successful given all the people they had coming back?
Well, they're a good football team, a lot of good players, and certainly they had success against us last year. So, we're focused on them and the fact that they do have a lot of really good players. We feel like they're really physical and disciplined. They play really, really hard. They're really good tacklers in space. They don't allow much stuff to get behind them. They've got explosive players on offense, defense, and special teams. So tremendous amount of respect for them, their program, their coaching staff.
Can you talk about how Tim DeRuyter's done for you guys?
He's done a good job, done a solid job for us. We're improving in some areas and got to improve in some others. So, happy that he's with us and we're continuing to progress and hoping to have an even better week this week.
Thank you.
Jared Denny, Scooped Up.
Hey, Mario, I'm wondering with Bennett going down, obviously a tough break for a guy who's having a really, really good year. What does that star position start to look like behind Jamal?
Well, the addition, or I would say the return of a guy like Damon David helps out. Jamal, who is now seems to be in football shape and more along the lines of what he was, a year ago, now that he's gotten more reps. The thing is, Bennett was playing at a really high level. I believe he was the National Player of the Week when he did get injured. So that was a tough one because, between him, Steve Stevens, he's playing good football as well. Verona obviously played really good ball. We had some plans to get all those guys on the field at the same time. So that plan has to be scrapped while at the same time, other guys getting work at those positions. Jeffrey Bassa has been very unselfish in helping us by playing linebacker. He's a big guy, so he could handle it. So that's why the return of Damon David is so important. He provides depth and a guy that we feel very confident that could go in there and play.
Is the plan for Bassa to stick at weak side linebacker then?
Well, just for the season. He's an excellent nickel. He's an excellent safety. And the guy really, really smart, learns football well, adjusts well. He's physical. So he was, it's just, again, a very unselfish move. We're glad that we have him with us because he's doing a great job. Every week he just gets better and better with the reps that he gets. But that is a move for the year.
James Crepia.
Kind of follows nicely with that, Mario. Just going back a bit, the 2-minute defense in the last game and just the thought process of sticking that Tim didn't go with dime as much, but how much did you mentioned kind of a lack of availability there? Did personnel availability in the secondary play into that? And just the general thought process of either going with dime in that situation or not, and how that might change going forward in those sort of situations.
Well, nickel and dime calls are real similar, and the cover techniques that are used are almost identical. The body types that were in there, they're all of equal ability. I don't see a nickel and dime being a difference. Not having Triquez in there, he was ejected for what they said was a targeting call, which again, whatever there. But the fact that technically being, you got to play leverages the right way. And we got beat on a lot of in cuts on that last drive. And we certainly, there were a lot of penalties on that last drive, some that we can avoid and some that, whatever. So we got to certainly do a much better job, because 19 plays previous to that drive, 5 straight, we had held them to about 11, 12 yards of total offense. And that's the way we're supposed to be playing. And on the last drive, we didn't. So we got to hold ourselves accountable as coaches, teach it better, call it better, adjust from a leverage standpoint, whatever way we have to prevent that result.
Matt Preem.
I know you said the staff went out recruiting, but how did the team use this bye week? Sometimes teams prepare for the next opponent 2 weeks out. How did you guys use your time?
It was really well. We made a decision that the whole thing was going to be focused on improvement, and in a couple different ways. One of them being from a health standpoint. We have to get some guys back, so we had to be smart. Typically, bye weeks for us, it's rock'em sock'em now. We're in full pads every single day. We didn't have enough bodies to go full pads every day, but we went enough where we got the right kind of work in. Guys that needed some, I would say, work, but not in full pads, still got the right type of work, whether it be conditioning, technical, fundamental. We worked on all our schemes. And of course, during the bye weeks where you always want to create your wrinkles, your evolvement of your systems, as we like to call it, as well as tighten up the things that you need to be better at. A lot of not only young guys, but guys that have been, in line and waiting their turn, get multiple reps. And the reps, they really added up. You saw some improvement. A lot of guys that we're counting on to step up that have played some or that have played very little, if at all, but got multiple reps, thinking that those guys are either going to get more reps or going to get their first action in the coming weeks with our situation, and really everybody's situation around the country, right? You're going to see a lot of players play in the second half of the season that probably didn't play in the first half of the season around the country due to the use of the red shirt rule, due to injuries, roster adjustments, betterment, player development. So all those things I think, play a role in who gets to get significant snaps as the season rolls on.
James.
Was going to ask about this regardless of the 2 targeting calls last game, Mario, but there's obviously this discussion going on in the background about evaluating targeting, evaluating how it's administered, whether there's going to be a targeting 1, targeting 2, and putting intent into the rule, and no one knows how that'll be legislated necessarily. Not just in light of the last game, but in general. All right, with these conversations going on, how would you like to see targeting adjusted going forward when this is very much a hot topic in the sport at the moment?
Sure. I think anything should be officiated with consistency, that being number 1. Let me go back. That should be number 2. Number 1 should be player safety. So that always needs to be number 1. Number 2, consistency, right? And then really, I mean, there has to be a form of discretion, because you're impacting games. You're really interjecting someone's discretion into the outcomes of a lot of games and affecting the next game in certain cases, without the opportunity to appeal, right? I think it's really easy for someone to make judgments when they're able to super slow-mo things on a monitor, as opposed to bodies changing positions and guys not being able to avoid certain contact and in fractions of seconds at full speed. So I think there has to be a reevaluation of the system while always keeping player safety first.
Jared Denny.
When you guys were evaluating Anthony through 5 games, I know you said last week that you believe he's going to continue to improve, but what are some of those areas that you think he still needs to improve in and is going to
It's
improve?
the same stuff we've talked about. There's certain things he needs to improve upon and certain things that he's done really well, and we've got to get better. It's the exact same thing.
James.
This game specifically, Mario, Cameron Good is obviously don't need to remind you guys what kind of impact he can make. How do you go about trying to minimize the impact that probably their most disruptive playmaker on defense can have on a game?
I think he's as good of a edge player and disruptive force as you'll find in the country. I say that without any reservation or hesitation. Just watching him on film, just different. His ability to, change direction, beat tackles and tight ends underneath with power, set edges, win the one-on-one, split double teams, redirect, play the dive, play the quarterback, hunt down and chase down wide zone from the backside. This guy, he impacts the game in every way imaginable. This guy's really an elite player, and you've got to be aware of where he is, all the time. That being said, they've got other really good players as well. They do a great job up front. They're very well coached, very disciplined, and they've done a really good job, handling the run.
Matt Preem.
Your offensive line has helped this run game be really good, one of the best in the conference. Your scoring offense is best in the conference. Just your thoughts on their development, from week 1 to now going into your 6th game of the year.
Yeah, honestly, man, we just got to keep getting better. I don't think anyone on our team is looking for praise, and not saying that we, don't deserve credit for, improvement and everything else. I just think we're at the point where every ounce of focus is just on, hey man, let's go get better. We did that during the bye week. We feel like our focus is strong, and it has to be that, you learn lessons along the way, especially when you sit back and you watch college football yesterday. You realize how difficult it is to win football games, and how you're never out of it, right? You're never out of it one way or the other. And I say all this just to kind of go back to the question and realize that the focus has to be on what you're doing right now to improve, so that you have more success on a play-by-play basis. Stack those plays. Now you stack your quarters and you end up having good ball games. But that's been the focus. I'm glad that we're having more success up front. I'm sure Coach Murball, the last thing he wants is any kind of, praise for those guys. He just wants them in that mindset where, we got a long ways to go. We are improving, but miles to go, miles and miles to go.
Let's go to Luciano with End Zoners.
Hey, Coach, hope you're doing well. A little follow-up on this. Do you think it's more likely that we start seeing 2 lost teams in the playoffs nowadays?
I couldn't tell you. Our focus has everything to do with the right now. I know there's a lot of scenarios out there, and obviously that's a huge part of the season in college football as the season progresses. But as of right now, really, I really have no idea how that would play out.
James.
The other policy matter that's come up, Mario, that basically passed is the expansion to the signing class this year up to 32 if you have the departures. I have no idea how that may or may not impact you. You've always talked about trying to sign the max and see where things go. Your initial thoughts of how that might or might not impact you, as you were just out recruiting this past week during the bye week, expanding the class potentially. I mean, it does require guys leaving to do that, but how that might impact you guys and your plans for this year's signing class.
Again, it all depends if you're allowed to sign, if it's a retroactive type of, criteria to be able to do it, or if you can just project and then figure it out later. I don't know. I think it's smart to be able to provide some relief, because teams have found themselves in a real pinch, and not only because of transfers, but sometimes, maybe they should expand it and also look at post-spring. God forbid there's some injuries in some critical areas. Example, if this was spring ball right now and we had the injuries, we had a linebacker, we'd be seeking to sign 3 or 4 guys to that position. So there's some things to be taken into account, because again, there's a way for, spots to be vacated, but there's not a way for spots to be replenished or roster to be replenished. And I think it's smart that we're investing and looking at some ideas. I'd like to see how the whole thing lays out, really, James, before being able to comment on it further.
Any more questions for Coach? All right. Thank you, Coach. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.